Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. This week I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Now I often do reviews of hotels and things like that, but this time we're going to do a product review, and it's going to be this little Altruewit camera, which is a little claimed 48 megapixel camera. You can pick these up on eBay for around about £50 new. Now I was sent this camera last year by Altruewit themselves to review for my photography channel. However, I don't think that's really the right place for it. You see, photographers by and large are very fussy about the equipment they use and the image quality they get. So I think perhaps Out and About with Andy might be a better place to start. So with this camera you get a charger, a little bag, a wrist strap. You also get 2 batteries with the camera. So basically all you have to add is an SD card and away you go. But who's this camera really aimed at? Well, to be honest with you, for the most part, when you're out shooting with it, you could probably take as good or better images with your cell phone, with your mobile phone. So why would you even bother investing in a camera? Well, this is kind of an ideal first camera to give to children, or perhaps for an elderly relative who doesn't like using their phone to take photographs with, or perhaps still doesn't have a phone that is a smartphone with a good camera on it. As compact cameras go, it's not a bad looking design and it's pretty ergonomic. All the usual things you'd expect with such a small camera. Very light, easily put in your pocket, so ideal for just popping out and taking a few snaps when you don't want to be taking any camera gear with you, which, to be honest, inconvenience is not something that photographers mind an awful lot when they're lugging a tripod and other things up the side of a hillside. So as you can see, when I said earlier, it's not really aimed at a photographer, it's aimed at somebody who just likes a little camera to take with them when they're out and about. But there's only really one way to find out. That's to put the batteries in it and an SD card. Let's get out and take some photographs. So folks, I'm out and about with the camera, and well, I've taken a few shots. One thing that really isn't very good about this camera is the screen on the back. It's fine if all you want to do is to line up a composition, but if you want to see if anything's in focus or in detail, this screen is way behind compact cameras of at least 10 years ago. So today is not the ideal conditions to be shooting with this camera. It's very windy, and that means that the grasses and things like that are blowing around. So if you want to try and take any photographs of anything like that, it's nigh on impossible, because even in sports mode it's very tricky, or it appears to be very tricky on the back of the screen to actually capture a shot. Right, let's try something that's not going to move. So I have found this style behind me, and I think we're going to take a few snaps of that and see what they come out like. So the photographer in me is getting quite frustrated with this little camera, but I have to remember that's not who this camera is aimed at. It's aimed for people who only have a passing interest in photography, don't want to spend a lot of money, and just want something that will record some images. So time to reflect on that. Hope that the screen isn't what I'm going to get. In fact, I know from the last time I used it, the images were better than what the screen said they were going to be, but it is so frustrating because you can't see what you've taken a photograph of in the same detail as the camera's recording. So of course the elephant in the room with this camera is that aforementioned 48 megapixel. Unfortunately, it's nothing of the sort. Like a lot of these cameras from China, the claims exceed the actual limitations of the camera. It's only an 8 megapixel sensor. What the camera does is it does what's called interpolation, and that is it adds extra pixels of the same color to the files, and that'll increase the file size. It's very similar to what you can do inside something like Photoshop to increase the file size. Usually though, what happens is that you will find that the image becomes softer. What's probably inside this camera is also a little algorithm which will sharpen the image as well to try and make those images look better. Well folks, what did you think of this little camera? Personally, I thought that I was right when I talked about it earlier and said that your smartphone, if you've got a smartphone, you know, from the last sort of 4 or 5 years, would run rings around this camera. Similarly, I think if you've got a compact camera from the last decade, certainly it's going to give this camera a good run for its money. However, if you want a cheap camera you can take places that you don't want to be taking your iPhone or your high-end Google Pixel or Samsung or whatever you're using, and you just want something you can stick in your pocket and use like that. Similarly, if you don't want to be taking a decent camera, a lot of gear, then this camera may just do the job. Alternatively, I think this is a good little camera to give to kids as a first camera, and you know that if they do actually drop it, break it, you haven't lost a fortune. Yeah, that's, I think, the market this type of camera is aimed at. So if you'd like to see a more comprehensive review on this camera, I'll put a link up top to my photography channel and you can check out that video. Alternatively, I'll also put a link in the description below, and yeah, peruse that at your leisure. Also, this camera may reappear on the channel in the near future, and that will be for a special reason, but we shall see what happens in the next month or so. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you again in another video. Bye for now.